All right, I guess I'm live. Wow, it's my first time doing a YouTube live to my beloved 59 subscribers or 60. I don't know. I haven't checked past few days. Um, like I was just gonna record a video and then just upload it as I usually do, but I had a lot come in today. As I was walking back from the gym. Like last week was kind of like a trial to see what like walking to and from the gym was going to be like, and if I can maintain it. And then I kind of got lazy and chickened out on Saturday, and then it's like you make the excuse train just goes on and on. And then I had a therapist visit with the state program place yesterday, and it was like a good renewal to jumpstart this new spiritual growth journey. Um, so I wanted to talk about a few things. I It was more like on the way back from the gym that kind of started piecing little like thoughts together, and then it's kind of like when you allow yourself to actually just communicate with the Lord when it's just a one-on-one basis. It's very enlightening. It's hard to believe until you actually put it into practice. Um, I don't know who's gonna come watch this channel. This is like first time. I'm popping a cherry. Sorry, I shouldn't use the Lord's name like that. Um, but it's something new. This is all new stuff. It's all dynamic. So I'm just learning as I'm going, to be very blunt. Um, and yeah, without further ado, I just want to show, I guess, a couple pictures that I like. I was thinking about like different powerful thoughts were like being channeled in as I was just kind of reflecting on life, past, present, and future, like spiritual knowledge that I've learned, just practicing Buddhism, and then coming into the New Age scene, and then that taking me, it's like a fly, um, to um, to learning about the Holy Spirit, and then learning about God, and then subsequently Jesus Christ. I did it all in the weird order, but it all kind of came together at the right times. So first, I'll show. Hopefully, like this video gets like saved, so I can just put into my like, I don't know, content machine, something. I don't know what to expect. So this is just something more to the. This is the lighting. So more like what's on 22 May 2025. Um, Probably doesn't make any sense to anyone except for me right now. But the first one that I came to was I was kind of just like examining, like, just on like the curiosity of like how can someone who's like a narcissist or just a complete empty vessel, like we all know those people that are just like empty vessels, and it's like they just operate in this like box like parameter. And so I was thinking of like the idea of having like a empty lighter. So I have a lighter. I can use little tools, right? Where's my? So it's like, imagine a narcissist would be like an empty lighter without any fuel in there, and all they can do is basically just make sparks. Again, this one has fuel in it, but imagine just flicking a lighter that has no fuel in it, and all you can do is make sparks. To me, it's like, while they still have breath in their lungs, they can, albeit they might be empty vessels, but what they can still at least generate a spark or a light source. It's there if they're willing to at least do the work of flicking that little steel that rubs against the flint to make a spark. But they're gonna have to do a lot of work, because I mean, to not to transfer that finite amount of light into a bundle of tinder, and to get it to actually light a fire. That I mean that is basically like they have to do some form of massive energy transfer of using whatever bit of light they have. They have to transfer that little bit of light into I put like a paper, but a fuel source. Only until then do I believe that they can actually start to actually cultivate their healing process. But most it's going to require a tremendous amount of just constant trial and error and using their own brain to figure out how to kickstart that engine. And I believe we all have to do that to some degree to elevate our minds and to have a deeper connection with the Lord. We all have a tremendous amount of light in our bodies, and once you realize how much light you carry, it's just like, ooh. And then you just have to like figure out how to actually operate it, because it can be very overwhelming once you start to really like dig beneath the surface layer. This is probably going to sound very new agey to some people, but God and Christ are at the center of it all. So I mean, God gave us these beautiful bodies, these spirit-filled vessels, and He gave us all five senses, and I would say six senses. The sixth sense being the mind, body, spirit connection to the Lord. Um, and it all goes together. So that was just one, but I think actually before I even got to that point, um, I was thinking about like just the concept of time, how we can dedicate time and positive growth into our learning, and like I was thinking in terms of either like martial arts, where you start at a white belt and then you progressively work your way up to the black belt. And then my mind likes to go to math for some reason. That's like my artistic palette to try to navigate through. And the white belt being like first you got to be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you can say 2 plus 2 more equals 4. Yay, we got 4 fingers. And then you can expand from there. And level up. Now you can do basic addition. Then you can work towards subtraction. If I have 4 fingers and 2 of them get cut off, now I've only got 2 left. That's 2. You know, and then you work your way just up the food chain, up to calculus, and then you can go. The sky's the limit after that point. Um, but how do we begin this initial journey that we're on? And I just kind of thought of like we have to kind of establish parameters, um, and like you can't just have absolute rigidity and you can't have absolute chaos. You've got to figure out there's a balance between both. What I would say like polarities, positive and negative, positive, negative, up, down. Too much of positivity is going to lead to you spiraling out of control, and then you'll just be eating junk food and chasing serotonin or craving that Holy Spirit, uh, almost like a drug. I've seen people act that way. They're just like so engorged with wanting to feel the Holy Spirit in their lives that they're just like doing everything they can just for that. It's almost like a drug hit to feel that's not healthy either. So I came up with the idea of just kind of so it's like I'm putting language learning into my mental housing, self development ways to just expand my own, understanding of language and just spiritual food, like secular spiritual food, positive secular spiritual food, whatever word you guys want to place into it. But it's like eating our veggies. We should continue to expand our knowledge. You never know where it's going to lead to, and that's part of the joy in it, is just incorporating positive. It's like going to the gym, right? Walking to the gym and going to the gym and walking back home. That's like positive for the mind, body, and spirit. And again, everything works together. So, and like the knowledge, and then plus our brain's got all these different little lobes. One's for language, one's for logical functioning, art, whatever. So this is just one little region. So so I was kind of like exploring Arabic and Spanish, and I can either start from the very beginning, trying to learn Arabic and have to learn how to write the letters, read the letters, sound them out, understand the subtle nuances between different sounds and how they're all completely different, or I can just go off what I already know, which is being like uh, almost bilingual in Spanish, and I'm like, you know what? It's just let's just say let's just for Danny's mental comfort level right now. Let's just like go back to my Spanish Duolingo segment. I started from the beginning so I can still build that foundation. There's still words that are like the palabras básicos, basic words that I may have forgotten, like backpack and ticket. One is maleta, the other one is boleto. But it's like words I don't normally use, but just that beginner refresher. It's good to just start again from a foundation, work your way up. So yeah, so I kind of thought of like this concept of basically putting like parameters around a clock, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's put 30-minute, and I have like Audible books, so I can just continue to just do 30-minute, because it's like I've got a 2-hour walk window anyways to the gym and back. I may as well dedicate 30 minutes of that time period to just doing like an Audible language learning course, um, and then do other stuff, whatever. But at least put that into the. And I usually start at the very beginning. So as soon as I leave my door, I just start the Audible book and start hoofing it out. Um, that way I can get it done with first and not have to worry about it later. I'd rather just knock it out of the way, right? But also just kind of applying that concept now into my day to day, because I do want to do language learning 7 days a week, just to basically keep that, and just like I call it spiritual breakfast. I want to put that into my 7 day, like pretty much wake up, and as I'm drinking my kefir spiritual breakfast drink, um, do my little like version Bible app study plans, just whatever the on the list of topics I want to explore, and not overwhelm myself, but just do one of the daily devotionals and just kind of work it on down based on how many devotionals I have to do at that point. And like those are not time sensitive; those are just task sensitive. So just kind of being able to differentiate between time sensitive tasks versus or time sensitive objectives, and then task sensitive. So if it's the study plan, whatever the amount of devotionals I have for that given period, sometimes it'll be 5. Sometimes I'll just add some in. Sometimes I'll finish out the ones I have. I don't like putting too many rules in the framework. I like to keep it flexible. Um, so that's one concept. This is going to be like a lot of initial, like day one, onwards, like even calculus, as the function approaches from x to infinity. So day one to infinity, between this earth life and God willing I go to heaven, and however that will expand out. And nobody really knows exactly what it will be like when we are in the heavenly place. You can list NDEs, but it's like a very brief synapse of eternity. um so yeah, dedicated learning, I use like one bracket, the alligator, whatever, with a clock and with a clock inside of it. And again, like when I think of these kind of like spiritual concepts, again, I want to use like the parameters of infinity, where there's just so many different things that can come out of something that's positive. So one of them is just like, I guess you can call it time management, right? Putting time management into my life. It's gonna put divine order back into the place that where it got unordered. Um, so yeah, so like the first main principle that came out for me was just, I call it dedicated learning. That way, it's like so if I say, like one goal I want to add into my daily mix is, before I do mealtime, which is like I usually only like one main meal, or I'll make a big pasta dish and then I'll just pick at it throughout that portion of time, whatever. But before I get to that meal, I want to just kind of set my oven timer for 10 minutes and just do Duolingo Espanol, And then when the timer goes off, then hey, I did my 10 minute. But if I want to do more, hey, it's on me. If not, whatever. Um, but yeah, just kind of just setting like attainable nuggets. So maybe a month from now, I'm like 10 minutes is like me walking 1 mile. That would be easy for me. Me walking 10 miles in one stretch would be uncomfortable. So again, flexibility, right? Flexibility with parameters, I'd say. Um, so that's that. Page 2 is even more focused in. I'm still getting through page 1. So we did the understanding empty vessels and how they can still generate light, but it's just a you know I'm not at the point where I really want to try to heal empty vessels. Uh, you know, I'm sure there'd be a point where you can like put your feel into them, but I don't know, that can like create codependency bonds, attachment needs, and I like to just live as a lone wolf and be more solitary. Call me selfish. you know, I did the codependency game for a very long period of my life. I want to try something in its inverse. Um, the last one I was thinking of too was I'll kind of just focus on these three powerful concepts. I could go to the page 2 where I kind of talk more in terms of like understanding our free will and in a sense of how spirit and the spiritual law of attraction works and how to make the application, how I want to make the application towards it. I might briefly talk about it at the end, maybe talk more about it tomorrow. But the last one was kind of like I briefly mentioned it earlier. Like I was thinking of kind of like when I was just kind of thinking of these, like this didn't all just like get shotgunned into my brain. I was just like as I'm walking and listening to like music in the background, usually instrumental. I find is the best, or music in other languages, so I don't know what they're talking about. It's just a vibe, and I just kind of I'm looking around nature and letting everything just communicate to me and let my mind formulate all of that into a string of words and images that I try to just. It's like playing puzzles, and you get to see how these four-dimensional pieces all interlock with each other, and try to find that little kernel of truth in between all of that. I'm nuts. Who said I wasn't? But I thought of this picture again. I'll show it to you. This little seesaw, a seesaw with a yin yang in the center of it. We're like using like the whole yin yang concept where you can't have absolute of one polarity or the other. Not in terms of light or darkness, good versus bad. Like those are to me those are such primitive conceptual words. I don't, you know, it's just I think it's very humanistic thinking and it's limiting our understanding of the bigger divine picture behind the scenes. But I saw it more as like like more in terms of I guess like brain chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, acetylcholine, choline. You know, if we're smoking weed, watching PMO, doing PMO, drinking alcohol, and associating ourselves with these like potentially degenerate people, it might feel good. It might create these little like massive dump brain chemical downloads, and I don't even know if that's the right way of putting it because that's what I used to do. That's what I used to do every night, one form or the other. The online content, the online associations with just dark-minded people. I was one of them, and then the alcohol consumption to be numbed and just flood my body with poison, basically. But again, with polarities, right? Um, maybe one polarity concept would be light versus darkness, but indulgence, whatever. we all have our sweet tooth. Mine would be more towards tortilla chips and guacamole, or queso, or hot salsa, or whatever. A tipsy taco item menu selections would be my sweet tooth. Um, but I can't eat tipsy taco menu item selections all day every day because it's going to destroy my health. I'm going to get fat. It's going to cause diabetes and everything else that comes with that. Much of one good thing for us that we would enjoy would inevitably be bad, right? So then there has to be a ratio between reward and work. So maybe it's a work reward ratio, and figuring out the right balance. So, but that's what we all have to figure it out. I can't tell you what your proper ratio mix is. Is it 70-30, of 70% doing task positive, godly tasks, dedication, 30% of them of let's say you have a 12-hour day. You know, I don't know but we all have to figure that one out for ourselves and figure out a balance where you get the best of it obviously can't be all pleasure and very minimal actual spiritual nourishment. Um, see for yourself. See where that leads you in a year from now. But I would argue it shouldn't be that. You know, it wouldn't be healthy in my opinion. But yeah, so it's like I thought of like just like either like a sense of work. So it's like at this current being station in my life where I can't drive, so I've got a 14-hour window of waking up to going to bed, and I can't just sit on my butt and just play video games for 12 hours and be lazy. I also don't have the financial funding stream to just pay for Uber because that's gonna just my credit card debt's already at a point that needs to be watched very closely. But so I have to find solutions to problems. We all have to find solutions to our own problems, and we shouldn't try to just blame others. It's- you got to deal with the hand you're dealt. Um, but yeah, so it's like I kind of see like the on the eating the veggie part would be the 3.5 4 mile walk to the gym and the 3.5 mile walk back from the gym. That's me just putting in work. But the benefit to all of this, in my opinion, is that as we are driving our mind and our focus, our attention towards godliness, godly attributes, godly thinking, it's gonna. I believe that it's gonna just continue to plant more seeds. Again, like I think of like the beautiful garden, or like the beautiful front yard garden. You've got your nice healthy turf grass as your base. Then you have your raised planter beds with your flowers, and however you want to each their own. If you like tulips, plant tulips if it's the right season. If you like carnations, daisies, lilies, hydrangea, whatever. But you know that's where we get to be creative and how we design our front yard garden. What kind of turf grass we like. It's dependent upon your climate, region, zones, and soil. I don't want to get all nitty gritty with details, but just give you the meat and potatoes. Um, so where was I going with that? Yeah, so beauty begets more beauty. Putting more attention and focus towards godly thinking, living. Christ calls us to live like like to be like Christ. To be Christ-like is to be a Christian, in my opinion. And how do we become Christ-like? Well, we have to understand what are godly virtues. So I'll just kind of I'll probably wrap it up towards that point because I do want to go to the page two, so it um, completes my goal for this video. And I do hope it gets saved so I can just like upload it as content or something. So this is the next picture. It's gonna look probably wild and nutty, but it's just how my brain works and on the inside, not the verbal. I'm blocking it. Huh. Wrong page. So I've got math on top, and then I've got calculus is what it leads to, and then just a calculus kind of basic principle with integrals and derivatives. And then I have a head or a smiley face with an arrow pointing towards God. Again, I don't mean to draw God like this, but it's just again, this is all in a concept that we don't know what God looks like. Please, this is just a quick two-dimensional sketch. I don't mean to blaspheme the Lord. So sorry, Father God. But it's just like, to me, when I can even try to understand what God might be. Again, I'll never, we'll never understand God's everything. Just my own little pea brain that tries to make sense of what I can theoretically make sense of. And again, this is probably a microcosm of it, but his intellectual power and love and everything is like infinity, the scale of infinity squared by itself. And who knows how many more times it squares itself out, but it's just beyond any third, fourth dimensional way of thinking. He's on a, but if we try to just take what little bit of understanding we can through our little domes in our head, I'm like, okay, so first I should just say, okay, I want to put my focus towards godliness, because I know that by driving towards godliness in my mind, body, spirit, and connection to the Lord, it's only going to, if you can bring it all in, then everything that doesn't need to be inside, that there would be ungodliness, would just make no room for ungodly thinking, right? And these are like spiritual seeds that it's like a spiral. You can either spiral up or you can spiral down. If you put more focus and more energy, more work, like starting the fire to get the kindling burning, you just keep on figuring out what the right hay fiber is that starts it. And it's like, if anyone's ever tried to start a fire from just like one little like burning out charcoal ember or charcoal block, it's hard, man. You gotta get that little charcoal as hot as you possibly can first, and then you have to figure out what kind of fire kindling you gotta have to get that little bit of kindling barely warm enough. And it's just, but once you can get all of that base going, then it starts burning and burning hot. Now you just gotta feed that fire. Again, how do we feed the fire? Go back to the beginning of the video. And in terms of like, I just did like a quick Google search of like, okay, so if I want to put my mind to be Christ-like, let's look up Christ-like godly virtues. And I found, I'm there's endless amounts, I'm sure, but you got to keep it within a certain level of framework, or else you'll just get lost before you even start to begin the journey. So I just kind of I just went from A to J, starting with love, faith, hope. Again, guys, I'm not trying to be a legalist saying this is what you must do to become godly, because these are all infinite levels that one can start from, and one will never end that. It's a timeless, you know. So please don't be like, I must write down love, faith. Just Google godly attributes, and make your own list that makes sense to you. But mine were going to be love, faith, hope, charity, humility, diligence, chastity, gratitude, kindness, and temperance. And the other like one thing that I definitely like about the Bible app YouVersion is you can do the study plans. I can even just maybe show you. So if anyone doesn't really know, like I was blessed when I was given this information. It all actually happened on the day that I had that guy almost die in my car in Uber and was going to like severe seizures and doing like the on the death wheezing. I thought the guy was gonna die in my car. I had like raced to the hospital, and I talked to the resident clergy chaplain, and he just gave me this powerful nugget of information. So I'll just show you like on YouVersion. So what you do if you just download the Bible app YouVersion, you'll have this little screen. I think you'll make a little profile or something, and then you just go to the bottom where it says plans. I'm doing this like simple style because I'm really tech unsavvy. So then you can basically go to like there's a little magnifying lens, and then you just type it in. So I'll just do for instance love. I'll just type love in, so you guys can see it firsthand if you've never had done this before. And now you've got study plans on love, and then they're all like different day limits, and you can either browse through them, pick the one you like. There's tons of them, tons, and then you can just fine tune your search browser. Chastity, for instance, it's kind of sexual, but unsexual. Yeah, it's gonna give you stuff like that, you know. But on the point is that this is just endless study material. It could be anything. It could do one on Psalm 91. You'll get all these study plans. Sky's the limit, or the universe is the limit, right? So, yeah. So I labeled all of this understanding spiritual growth, development, mentality, and I use math principles because when I was like early on, before I became a godly person or a godly follower, I love spiritual, learning, growth, and I loved the idea of calculus and applying mathematical and calculus principles into my life, like taking a derivative of a big concept and just figuring out what its derivative is, because the integral is what that little derivative kernel becomes when you if you take the integral of or if you have a loaf of bread and you take the derivative of the loaf of bread, it would be like uh, a crushed flour grain with some leaven and yeast on it. If you take the integral with it and add water, it builds into. This is hard to talk about and describe, but it's that same concept of kind of like when you can take your thoughts captive, and then you can kind of like bundle them together, and then if you can figure out like what the derivative is, say it's a negative set of thoughts. If you can figure out what the derivative of those thoughts are, figure out what the root is, then you can either like, for instance, codependency could be the derivative of a lot of toxic characteristic traits. So that's the integral, is all of the traits combined together. I don't know. This is probably not making any sense, but makes sense to me. Anyways, guys, God bless. I hope this first video reaches people. It didn't. I don't think I got any viewers, but at least I tried. But maybe I'll see how this. Hopefully, this video gets saved. I can just put it into my like file YouTube page or something. Anyways, guys, God bless. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you do watch this video, maybe we'll do this again in the future. Maybe like if I get like just like fun thoughts that come to mind after my walk home from the gym, and at least for the next 60 days while I'm doing this, once I can drive, I don't know if I'm going to be walking to the gym anymore, but maybe as a novelty, I'll just be like, all right, on Saturdays, I got to walk to the gym so I can, not forget where I came from. Anyways, guys, God bless. God be with you.